I married her, and in exchange, I gave you a large sum of money to restart your business, in addition to paying your debts. You have no right to interfere in my marriage, retorted Chris. Pamela is still my daughter, and I have every right to intervene if you treat her badly. She won't stay married to you, I'll make sure she divorces, replied Boris. Chris burst out laughing. Before the divorce, you'll have to pay me back the large sum I gave you to restart your business and pay your debts. If you can't repay me, there will be no divorce, Chris scoffed. By the way, tell my wife to come home. She shouldn't force me to come and fetch her myself, he concluded before hanging up. Pamela collapsed in tears upon hearing the conversation between her father and Chris. I will remain his prey, she wept, kneeling on the floor. Mom, Dad, doesn't it matter to you whether I truly want to marry Chris? Pamela asked her parents. He is a good young man, he is well educated and he is also rich. Everything you want will be provided to you, Doris replied to Pamela. But Mom, I don't love him. I just met him through this arranged marriage, Pamela countered. My daughter, you just have to accept this marriage. As you can see, my business has collapsed, and your mother is struggling alone to provide for the family. If you agree to marry Chris, he will help me financially, and I can restart my business. I've already lost so much money. Chris is the only solution to help us through this crisis, explained Boris, Pamela's father, patting her on the shoulder. Pamela realized that her parents were not ready to give up the idea of her marrying Chris. She stood up, tears in her eyes, and walked towards her room. Chris's parents met Pamela's parents. They discussed the marriage and started making preparations. Chris decided to see Pamela before the ceremony. They met alone in the back. Pamela, you don't look happy. Why? Chris asked. Why should I be happy when I'm marrying a complete stranger I don't love and know nothing about? Pamela replied. I saw you, you pleased me, and I want you as my wife. Your parents will benefit greatly from this marriage, so I don't see why you wouldn't be happy, Chris retorted. Really? Pam said, staring at Chris, then decided to walk away. Chris grabbed her arm. I'm not finished talking. Why are you turning your back on your future husband? Chris said. Pamela freed her arm from Chris's grip, moved away from him, and returned to her room. I see she has neither regard nor respect for me. I will deal with that soon, Chris muttered to himself. Why these tears? You want to spoil your makeup? And if your in-laws see you crying, what will they think of us? Doris questioned, addressing Pamela. They might think we are forcing you to marry their son, her tense mother continued. Why does it feel like I'm not getting married of my own free will? Pamela replied. You are doing this for your family. This marriage will be a great help to your father, so you need to pull yourself together. Besides, it's your wedding. At least pretend to be happy, her mother added. But Mom, this is not the life I dreamed of, Pamela broke down in tears. Pamela feigned joy for the sake of her parents as she married Chris. Hey big brother, good to see you. It's been a long time. You look fit, and you found a beautiful wife, Damien said to Chris. I'm happy to see you, bro. I didn't expect to see you make the trip for my wedding, Chris replied. Why not? It's the wedding of my only brother, Damien countered. My sister-in-law, here is the gift I have for you and my brother, he said, smiling as he presented his wedding gift to Pamela during the reception. While everyone was drinking and dancing, Damien approached Chris. Bro, your wife doesn't look happy in my opinion. I hope everything is all right and there are no problems. Don't worry about her. She's just sad about leaving her family, Chris replied, sipping his glass of wine. Ah, I see. Let's toast to your union, Damien continued, clinking his glass against Chris's. I'm going to go. I want to take my bride home, Chris told Damien. Okay bro, I'll let you go, Damien replied. I'm flying tomorrow, Damien shouted as Chris walked away. Okay, thanks for coming. Take care, Chris shouted back. Mom, Dad, I'm leaving with Chris, Pamela announced in a sad voice. May God bless your union and be a good wife to your husband, Doris said, hugging Pamela. Arriving home, Chris wanted to make love to Pamela, but she refused. I'm not ready for that, and besides, I'm tired. I need to rest, Pamela replied to Chris. What are you talking about? I married you, and it's our wedding night. You have no right to push me away, Chris retorted harshly. Pamela ignored him and made to leave the room. I'm talking to you, and you're turning your back on me. Chris pushed her and forcibly imposed himself on her, which was truly awful. After this incident, Pamela wept all her tears, disgusted and disappointed. It had already been 6 months since Pamela and Chris got married. Chris never showed the slightest consideration or kindness towards her. Chris, look at the time you're getting home from work. It's past 2 a.m., and you smell of alcohol, Pamela lashed out, glaring at him. Shut up and go get me some food, Chris retorted. You won't even explain why you're getting home at this hour, and it's not the first time. You don't even bother to call me to let me know you'll be late. I had to quickly prepare your dinner, thinking you were on your way. Look at the time it is now, Pamela pointed out, gesturing at the wall clock. I told you to go get my meal, and you keep talking. Who do you think you are to question me? Chris roared, violently slapping Pamela, causing her to fall to the floor. Chris went straight into his room and fell asleep fully dressed. Pamela entered to help him undress. While she was taking off his clothes, Chris's phone chimed. Pamela picked it up and saw a message from an unknown woman revealing that Chris was cheating on her and that was why he was coming home so late. The next day, she didn't say a word to him about the message. She prepared Chris's breakfast and attended to her daily tasks. Chris, I would like to apply for a job. I can't stand staying at home every day and depending on you for money, Pamela declared. So you want to find a job to go flirt with young guys outside or with your boss, huh? Chris launched. What do you mean by that? Do you think I would allow myself to be unfaithful? Pamela countered. I respect my marriage, unlike some people who cheat on their spouses, she continued, sighing. Are you alluding to me? Chris became angry. Pamela remained silent. I'm talking to you. I'm asking you, are you alluding to me? Am I lying? Maybe you're not cheating on me? Is that why you come home late, huh? Pamela yelled. Chris stood up and delivered a powerful slap to Pamela. He stared at her again and said, You're lucky I'm not in a bad mood today, otherwise you wouldn't recognize yourself looking in a mirror, Chris spat out as he left. Pamela was asleep when she heard a knock at her bedroom door in the middle of the night. Chris, is this the time you're coming back? Pamela asked in a trembling voice, getting up to open the door. What took you so long to open the door, huh? Chris asked. Don't you know I was sleeping? Pamela replied. Why are you here? She questioned. I came to make love to my wife, Chris replied. Pamela looked at him and sighed, ready to go back to bed, but Chris pulled her back and shoved her. She yelled at him to let go of her. Now you remember I exist? Now you say I'm your wife. Pamela shouted. You can go back to your mistress, the one who keeps you out until the middle of the night, Pamela added. How dare you talk to me like that? Chris roared, slapping Pamela. She grabbed him by the shirt and hit him back. Chris punched her and pinned her to the bed. He ripped her pajamas and then abused her. Pamela spent the night crying. The next day, Pamela was still in bed when Chris woke her up brutally by hitting her arm. Get up. At this hour, you're still in bed? You haven't even made my breakfast or ironed my outfit. I'm going to be late for work, Chris yelled. Chris, I'm sick, Pamela replied weakly. That doesn't stop you from making my breakfast and ironing my clothes, Chris countered. I do it every day. Today, I'm not capable because I'm sick. Can you help me, please? There are drinks in the kitchen. Make yourself something. Spare me this today, she begged him. So you're asking me to prepare my own breakfast and iron my clothes? Chris yelled. He dragged her out of bed and pushed her out of the room. I told you I was sick. Can't you help me just for today? Pamela screamed. Go prepare my breakfast, iron my clothes, or I'll beat you mercilessly, Chris yelled. Pamela sobbed as she prepared Chris's meal. He returned from work but didn't find Pamela at home. He tried to reach her, but it was impossible. An hour later, Pamela entered. Why do you look so surprised to see me? Where are you coming from? Who did you go to see? Chris questioned her. I'm just surprised to see you back already. You haven't answered my question. Where were you? Who did you go to see? Chris repeated. I didn't go to see anyone. I'm coming back from the hospital. I had a test yesterday. I've been sick for 3 days, Pamela explained. Why didn't you tell me you were going to the hospital? Show me the results, Chris demanded, holding out his hand. Pamela sighed and took the document from her bag to hand it to him. "I'm pregnant," Pamela announced. "I see," Chris replied, folding the paper as he read it, then handing it back to Pamela. "I'm very hungry." "What did you prepare?" he asked. "That's all you have to say after I told you I'm pregnant? What do you want me to say besides that? Go get me some food, young woman." Chris yelled. "Hey here. I bought you an outfit. My parents are coming to visit us. Make sure to wear it and be presentable," Chris ordered, handing her the garment. Pamela took the outfit, making a grimace. "If your parents weren't coming, you would never have given me anything. Since we got married, you've never bought me anything, not even the slightest trinket. Now you're offering me this outfit just to hide my bruises so your parents don't notice that you're mistreating me, huh?" Pamela said. "Be careful what you say, and do as you're told," Chris replied, leaving the room. Later that day, Chris's parents, Damien and Chantal, arrived, and Pamela prepared all sorts of dishes. Everyone sat down at the table. "Mom, Dad, I have good news to share with you," Pamela said to her in-laws. "What is it? Tell us quickly," Chantal eagerly asked. "I'm pregnant," Pamela informed them. "Congratulations, my daughter." "Chris, why didn't you tell us your wife is pregnant?" "You must take good care of her now," Chantal said. "Chris, my dear, congratulations again." "I'm so happy, I'm going to be a grandmother," Chantal added, laughing. "Congratulations, my dear," Damien chimed in, smiling. Pamela was already 3 months pregnant. After finishing her daily chores, she prepared dinner and waited for Chris. She waited and finally fell asleep. A few hours later, she woke up. It was already past midnight. "Will Chris come home tonight?" she murmured. She picked up her phone and called Chris. "Hello, Chris. It's late. Aren't you coming home?" "I've already made dinner," she informed him. "No, I won't be coming home," Chris replied. "Why?" Pamela asked. While she was talking, she heard a woman's voice in the background. "Chris, who is that woman?" "I hear a female voice," Pamela asked. Chris didn't answer. "Chris, are you with your mistress?" Pamela cried out. Chris ended the call without answering. "Hello? Hello, Chris?" Pamela exclaimed in vain. She called back, but he didn't answer. "What did I do to deserve such a cruel husband? How can a man abandon his pregnant wife alone at home to go see another woman?" Pamela lamented. The next morning, Chris called Pamela. "My brother is flying back in 3 days. I suggested he stay at our apartment before he finds his own place, so make sure to prepare the guest room and cook him a good meal. Make him feel at home," Chris told Pamela. "You're only calling me for that? I thought you were going to explain your night spent out and tell me who you were with," Pamela countered. "What I do and who I'm with is none of your business. Just stick to what I told you," Chris snapped before hanging up. Chris didn't come home for 4 days. Pamela was resting in her room when she heard someone knocking at the living room door. She got up to open it and saw Chris and his mistress. Chris smelled of alcohol, and the young woman was supporting him to enter. Pamela stood in the doorway with her arms spread, blocking their access. "What do you think you're doing? Where do you plan to go? You want to bring this woman into my home with my husband," she said to the mistress. Chris pushed her, but Pamela resisted, still blocking the mistress. "Is that how you treat a guest, huh?" Chris cried out, slapping Pamela, who fell to the ground, holding her cheek. "So you slap me because of your mistress? If you prefer to spend your time with her, why did you marry me?" Pamela cried, tears in her eyes. "You only came to make my life miserable," she screamed, insulting the mistress. Furious, Chris took off his belt and hit Pamela. She screamed and protected her belly as much as she could. Chris went so far as to give her a violent kick directly in the stomach. Pamela let out a heartbreaking cry. "Let's go, darling, let's leave. This woman just ruined my mood," Chris snapped to his mistress, taking her hand. He left the house, abandoning his pregnant wife curled up in pain. Pamela tried to crawl for help, screaming. 2 hours later, Damien arrived at Chris's house. He saw the gate wide open and entered, intrigued. Reaching the door, he heard Pamela crying and screaming. Damien dropped his suitcases and ran inside. "Oh my God, Pamela, what happened?" he asked, panicked, finding Pamela lying on the floor bleeding. "Help me," Pamela whispered weakly. Damien immediately picked her up and took her to the hospital. He tried to reach Chris to inform him of his wife's condition, without success. After a few hours, the doctor arrived. Damien rushed over to her for news of Pamela. The doctor announced to him that Pamela had lost her baby. If she had been brought in sooner, the fetus might have been saved. Damien was heartbroken to hear this news. "I hope she's okay. Please don't let anything happen to her," Damien begged. "Yes, she is fine and out of danger," the doctor replied. Pamela could not hold back her tears. She cried, cursing Chris, who had made her lose her unborn child. Damien spent the night at the hospital. In the morning, he rushed back to get some things Pamela would need. 2 days later, Pamela was able to leave the hospital, and Damien drove her home. Upon arrival, Damien drew a warm bath for Pamela. He then went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Pamela, still in shock, struggled to eat. Damien comforted her and encouraged her to eat a little. When they finished, Damien asked Pamela what had caused the miscarriage. She did not answer but let her tears flow. "How did you get all those bruises, and where is Chris?" Damien questioned. "Please, tell me the truth. I need to know." "It's your brother who did all this to me," Pamela replied. "What do you mean? Are you telling me that Chris is responsible for your miscarriage and these bruises?" Damien was astonished. "Yes," Pamela replied. "That's not possible. The Chris I know would never do that," Damien reacted, incredulous. "Then you don't really know your brother." "Chris is a monster," Pamela lamented. Damien remained frozen upon hearing everything Pamela revealed to him. When Pamela went to rest, Damien tried to reach Chris, but he did not answer. The next day, Chris returned home. "Hey bro, you're back? When did you arrive?" Chris asked Damien. 3 days ago, Damien replied. "I thought you were only supposed to arrive in 2 days, Chris noted. "I finished earlier than expected, so I took a flight to return that day. And luckily I arrived that evening. Who knows what would have happened to Pamela otherwise," Damien said. "What are you talking about?" Chris was surprised. "Bro, your wife could have lost her life, in addition to your child. You know she was hospitalized and lost the baby because of your violence. How can you beat your pregnant wife without feeling the slightest remorse?" Damien scolded. "Damien, I didn't know she was going to lose the baby," Chris replied. "Even if she hadn't been pregnant, you should never have hit her." Damien flared up. "Where is she?" Chris asked. "She is in her room, and I think she is still upset," Damien replied. Chris went towards Pamela's room but noticed that the door was locked from the inside. He knocked, asking Pamela to open, but she ignored him. Chris continued to pound on the door until Damien intervened. "Bro, that's enough. Leave her alone. She is still suffering. You'll come back later," Damien suggested. Pamela locked herself away like this for several days. She kept crying, thinking back to Chris's relentless cruelty. Finally, she decided to visit her parents after spending several days withdrawn. "Where are you going?" Chris asked, seeing that she was about to leave. Pamela ignored him. "Am I not talking to you?" Chris insisted. "I'm going to visit my parents," she replied. "Why do you want to go to their house?" "To tell them how I treated you and how you had a miscarriage, just like you did with my brother." Chris snapped. "I need my family right now. I need to see them," Pamela replied. "Don't take another step towards that door. You are not leaving this house." Chris roared. "Why? Explain to me why I can't go see my parents." "You never let me visit them or even leave the house," Pamela retorted. "I don't want to talk anymore. Go put that bag away." "You're not leaving here," Chris cut her off. Pamela suppressed her anger and stared at him. Chris went to lock the door and kept the key with him. The next morning, Pamela, where is she?" Chris exclaimed, searching everywhere. He joined Damien, who was working out with headphones on his ears. "Bro, have you seen my wife?" Chris asked. "No, I haven't seen her. Have you searched everywhere?" Damien replied. "Yes, I can't find her." "Try calling her," Damien suggested. "I did, but she refuses to answer," Chris said. "Where could she be?" Damien, in turn, dialed Pamela's number, and she picked up. "Hello Pamela, where are you? We can't find you," Damien asked. "I'm at my parents' house. I just arrived," Pamela replied. "Okay, I'll tell Chris where you are," Damien said. "Give me the phone, I want to talk to her," Chris demanded, snatching the handset from Damien's hands. "Hello Pamela." Pamela immediately cut the communication upon hearing Chris's voice. "What? She dared to hang up on me." Chris fumed, furious that Pamela had disobeyed him, gone to her parents' house, and ignored him on the phone. Boris and Doris were delighted to see their daughter after all this time. They welcomed her warmly. "You sent us a message saying you lost your unborn child. How did that happen?" Doris asked curiously. Sighed Pamela. "How are you and Chris coping after this event?" "I feel bad for both of you," Doris continued. "What does Chris say about this?" She tried to follow up. "Mom, please, can you stop with Chris? Pamela exploded. "That monster is responsible for the loss of my child," she screamed. "What do you mean? Explain to us how Chris is responsible for your miscarriage," Boris asked. "I have a lot on my mind," Pamela said before recounting everything that had led to her miscarriage and how Chris had been mistreating her since the marriage. Doris stood with her hands clasped, speechless at such actions, while Boris bowed his head in shame. "My daughter, I am truly sorry," Boris cried, his voice broken by sobs. "I put you in this situation out of pure selfishness. I didn't think about your happiness, and I forced you to marry such a monster. Forgive us, your mother and me. We thought Chris was a good man. We didn't know he would make your life miserable after the marriage. Forgive me, my daughter, forgive us," he pleaded. Pamela was about to answer when Boris's phone rang. It was Chris. "Hello, Mr. Boris. Tell my wife to come home. She's not answering my calls anymore," Chris launched. "So you can start brutalizing her again? Is that it? What did I do to you, Chris? I gave you my daughter in full confidence, and you mistreat her. It was a crime to give her to you in marriage. I thought you were a good man." Boris became angry. "The way I treat my wife is none of your business. I married her, and in exchange, I gave you a large sum of money to restart your business, in addition to paying your debts. You have no right to interfere in my marriage," retorted Chris. "Pamela is still my daughter, and I have every right to intervene if you treat her badly. She won't stay married to you, I'll make sure she divorces," replied Boris. Chris burst out laughing. "Before the divorce, you'll have to pay me back the large sum I gave you to restart your business and pay your debts. If you can't repay me, there will be no divorce," Chris scoffed. "By the way, tell my wife to come home. She shouldn't force me to come and fetch her myself," he concluded before hanging up. Pamela collapsed in tears upon hearing the conversation between her father and Chris. "I will remain his prey," she wept, kneeling on the floor. "I will make sure to pay him back so you can be free of him," Boris declared with a dark look. "But Dad, how are you going to raise all that money? It must be a huge sum," Pamela worried. "Don't worry, my daughter. We will do everything possible to get the necessary sum," Doris comforted her. "Look who's back. I thought your parents wouldn't let you leave, or maybe they don't have the money I'm claiming from them," Chris scoffed, seeing Pamela return, her face swollen from crying. Pamela stared at him without a word. "Didn't I forbid you to leave the house?" Chris asked, grabbing her hair and pressing her cheek against his teeth. "Chris, stop. You're hurting me." Pamela whimpered, struggling. "Go to the room and never dare to disobey me again," he ordered her. Pamela prepared the things Chris needed for work as usual and attended to her daily tasks. Damien spent time with her so she wouldn't completely sink into despair, and at times managed to make her laugh. "It's getting late. What time does Chris usually come home?" Damien asked, checking his watch. "The later he is, the better I feel. At least I'm a little happier when he's absent," Pamela replied. "I see you really don't like Chris," Damien noted. "Who would like such a man? Are you sure he's your brother? I find it hard to believe that such good and kind parents could give birth to someone like him. He is your opposite. You should ask your parents if they really gave birth to him," she joked bitterly. Damien burst out laughing. Meanwhile, Chris entered. "What's so funny?" Chris asked Damien. "Oh, nothing special. Pamela was just telling me a joke," Damien smiled. Chris looked at Pamela with a scornful look and went to his room. Damien's presence in the house comforted Pamela a little. One day, Damien noticed that she was anxious. "Pamela, what's wrong? You seem very troubled," he questioned her. "I'm pregnant," Pamela confessed, closing her eyes in pain. "Why aren't you happy about it?" "You should be. You're going to have a child," Damien observed. "After what happened a few months ago, I never wanted to get pregnant by Chris again. He doesn't deserve to be a father." "Then why are you pregnant with him if you didn't want to be?" Damien asked. "Your brother, that monster, always forces me to have sex. If I refuse, he hits me and gets what he wants," she started crying. Damien consoled her, assuring her that everything would eventually be all right. It had already been 8 weeks since Pamela was hiding her pregnancy from Chris. "What is this? This is not what I asked for breakfast." Chris was heard shouting from the dining room. "But that is exactly what you asked for." "I'm sure I heard it clearly," Pamela countered. "You dare to contradict me?" Chris got angry. He abruptly walked out and barked at Pamela, who was holding her cheek, fearing a blow. "Get out of my sight, you stupid woman." Chris roared. Pamela didn't move, her gaze still fixed on him. "I'm talking to you," Chris shouted, raising his hand to strike her. Damien, witnessing the scene, rushed forward and grabbed Chris's hand. "Bro, your wife is pregnant. Don't hit her. Do you want her to lose this baby too?" he protested. "What? Pamela is pregnant?" Chris exclaimed, stunned. "Yes, your wife is expecting a child," Damien confirmed. "So you're pregnant, and you hid it from me." Chris bellowed at Pamela. She remained silent, simply staring at him. "Why didn't you tell me? What's the point? Do you think I was going to treat you differently? Even during my first pregnancy, you never spared me," Pamela retorted. "So that's why, huh? I'm talking to you." Chris approached her, furious. "Calm down, bro, don't lose your temper. Maybe she has her reasons for not saying anything," Damien tried to soothe him. Chris pulled away from Damien's grip and left the room in a rage. "Why didn't you say anything to Chris?" Damien asked Pamela. "I didn't see the point in telling him," she replied. Later, as Pamela was passing by Damien's room, she saw him packing his suitcase. "Damien, are you traveling?" she asked, entering. "Actually, I found an apartment, so I'm moving out," Damien explained. "Oh," Pamela said, looking sad. "Why don't you look happy?" "It's normal that I shouldn't stay here at my brother's forever," he pointed out. "Because your presence reassures me. You often stop Chris from beating me. Who will help me if you're not here anymore?" Pamela let out, her face dark. "It's my brother's house, I can't live here permanently. But don't worry, I'll come and see you when I can, and I'll talk to Chris too. I'll try to convince him to stop hitting you," Damien promised. Pamela thanked him and went back to the kitchen. Her parents called her to check on her. They were not pleased that she was pregnant again by Chris, as their plan was to get her out of this marriage. When Doris learned about it, she wanted to know if Chris was treating her well. While Pamela was talking, Chris overheard the conversation and abruptly intervened. "So that's what you're doing, huh? You're bad-mouthing me to your mother, aren't you?" Chris stormed in, furious. "I'm talking to you," he yelled. He snatched the phone from Pamela and confiscated it. "Let's see if you can still contact your parents. If you weren't pregnant, and especially if my brother hadn't warned me, I would have already given you the beating of your life," Chris threatened. The months passed, and Pamela's pregnancy was soon due. One night, as she slept, she felt a painful contraction, then others. Unable to bear the suffering any longer, she started screaming for help. Since Chris was rarely home, Pamela dragged herself to Chris's room to retrieve her confiscated phone. Although it was damaged, she still managed to turn it on and call Chris. "Hello," Chris said. "Chris, I think I'm going into labor. It's late, and I need you to take me to the hospital," Pamela announced in a weakened voice. "Where I am, I can't come back at this hour." "I'll call Damien to come and get you," Chris retorted. "Why pass the responsibility to Damien? You are the father of this child. It's late, and you're asking him to drive while you can't come." Pamela was surprised. "I see you still have the strength to talk, even while in labor," Chris sighed before hanging up. Chris then contacted Damien to go to his apartment and take Pamela to the hospital. Damien rushed to Chris's apartment. He found Pamela curled up on the floor, screaming in pain. He helped her into the car and immediately drove her to the hospital. A few hours later, the doctor came out and informed Damien that Pamela had a stillbirth. She would need to stay a few days for observation. Upon leaving the hospital, Damien brought her home. Chris, who had just returned, saw them arrive without a baby. "Why are you coming back without the child?" Chris questioned, puzzled. "Pamela had a stillbirth. I tried to reach you, but your number was unreachable. Weren't you aware?" Damien asked. "Pamela, are you telling me you lost the child again?" Chris flared up. "Bro, it's not her fault," Damien replied. "Excuse me, I need to take a call," he added, stepping outside for a moment. "Pamela, put the bags in the room." "I'll join you," Damien called out as he walked away. Pamela took the belongings and went into her room without saying anything to Chris. He immediately followed her. "Explain to me how you managed to lose the baby," Chris demanded, grabbing her arm and pinning her against the wall. "What do you mean by that?" "Leave me alone, I just got back from the hospital," she said. "The first time you lost the baby, you told everyone it was my fault. This time, I made sure not to hit you, often leaving the house to prevent you from blaming me for another miscarriage, and yet, you lost it again. So who are you going to blame now? How could I accuse you? Do you think losing this child makes me happy?" Pamela cried. "You dare to raise your voice in front of me?" Chris launched before slapping her. "You lost the child, and you have the audacity to yell at me," he bellowed. "How is it my fault?" Pamela screamed. "By your negligence. You must take responsibility for this loss," Chris countered. "What responsibility? And did you take responsibility when you caused my first miscarriage? You cruel, heartless man. You are nothing but a monster." Pamela yelled. "Are you addressing me that way?" Chris roared, locking the door. He took off his belt and began to whip Pamela mercilessly. She screamed and cried. Hearing the screams, Damien immediately hung up the phone and rushed towards Pamela's room. The door was locked from the inside. He begged Chris to open it, in vain. Chris continued to beat her. Damien rushed into Chris's room, searching for a spare key. He found a set and tried key after key. Finally, one opened the door. Damien stepped in and pushed Chris away, who, furious, told him to mind his own business. "I'm leaving. When I return, I don't want to see you in my house anymore," Chris threatened, slamming the door. Damien consoled Pamela, then headed towards the exit. Upon reaching the gate, he changed his mind and came back. "Come on, pack your things, you're leaving here. I refuse to leave you in my brother's hands. He's going to end up killing you," Damien declared to Pamela, who was still sobbing. Pamela stood up as best she could and gathered her belongings. Damien first took her to the hospital to treat her injuries, then he drove her to his apartment. "You can stay here for now. I can't take you back to your parents' house because Chris will track you down there. He doesn't know the address of my new apartment yet, so you'll be safe here," Damien explained. Pamela, overwhelmed with emotion, thanked him as he comforted her. Damien asked her what she planned to do about her marriage. "I can't continue with Chris. I feel chained. My life can never improve if I stay with him. I want a divorce. Please help me," Pamela pleaded. "If that's your decision, I will help you. You have suffered far too much because of my brother. I will contact my lawyers and help you begin the divorce proceedings," Damien accepted. Meanwhile, Chris returned home a few days later and noticed the absence of Pamela and her personal effects. He went to Pamela's parents' house to look for her. "Chris, what are you doing here?" Boris was surprised. "I've come to get my wife." "Tell her to come out, or I'll drag her out myself," Chris retorted. "What are you talking about? My daughter is supposed to be at your house. You didn't find her?" Boris worried. "Don't tell me she's not here." "All this is just a setup," Chris exploded, trying to force his way into the house. Boris grabbed him by the shirt. "Where is my daughter? If anything has happened to her, I will kill you and then kill myself," Boris threatened. Chris broke free and drove to his own parents' house. "What do you mean, you can't find your wife? Did you two argue?" asked Chantal, his mother. "Yes, Mom. I went to her parents' house, And she's not there, Chris replied. Then where could she be? Chantal worried. Maybe at a friend's place? Suggested Damien, Chris's father. No, she doesn't have any friends, Chris said. Wait, she must be at Damien's, he exclaimed. He tried to call Damien, but he didn't pick up. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Chris went to open it. Hello, sir, are you Mr. Chris? The lawyer asked. Yes, I am. What can I do for you? The lawyer introduced himself. I went to your apartment, but I didn't find you there. I was then given this address. I am informing you that you are summoned to court. Your wife has filed for divorce, he explained. What? Chris exclaimed. What's going on? Chantal asked, alarmed. It's Damien. Without him, Pamela couldn't have done this all by herself. Chris exploded. Mom, Dad, tell Damien to mind his own business, otherwise you won't like what I'll do to him. Tell him to bring Pamela back home. Chris screamed as he left, furious. What exactly is going on? Chantal worried, distraught. She called Damien. Hello, Damien. No matter where you are, come right now. I know Pamela is with you. I want to see both of you. You need to explain to me what's happening, she demanded. A few hours later, Damien and Pamela arrived. Chantal and Damien, Chris's father, were already seated in the living room waiting for them. Damien, what is going on? Why are you housing Pamela? And Pamela, why did you file for divorce? Explain yourselves. Chantal exclaimed, worried. I want answers right now, she cried. Mom, I took Pamela in because Chris made her suffer terribly. He doesn't respect her. Do you truly know what she has been enduring? I didn't know I had such a monstrous brother. I even wonder if he has a heart to treat his wife like that, even if he doesn't love her, Damien explained. How can you speak of your brother like that? Chris's father protested. But Chris only told me there was a little disagreement between them, Chantal interjected. Mom, don't trust Chris's sweet talk. He beats her, and not just a little. I had to protect her, Damien explained. While he spoke, Pamela remained silent, tears streaming down her cheeks. Damien then suggested to Chantal to go with Pamela into a separate room to see the bruises. Chantal, stunned when she saw the marks, cried out, My God, don't tell me my son did this to you. It was your son, Pamela confirmed. Chantal was in shock. They returned to the living room. Chantal's face was crestfallen, profoundly disappointed. Chris and Pam were summoned to court. With all the evidence of violence that Pamela had, the divorce was granted, and Chris was arrested for domestic violence. He was sent to prison. He begged his parents to bring in lawyers for his bail. I will do no such thing, Chantal replied. Why, Mom? Do you want to leave me to rot here? Chris asked. It's nothing compared to what you made Pamela endure. I am ashamed to call you my son. Your father never laid a hand on me. You are a disappointment to this family, Chantal retorted. Dad, help me, Chris pleaded. His father nodded sadly and replied that there was nothing he could do. You must serve your sentence, and when you get out, I hope you never dare to raise your hand against a woman again, Chantal concluded, leaving with Damien. Pamela's parents rejoiced to see their daughter finally freed from her marriage to Chris. While they were congratulating her on the divorce, there was a knock at the door. Pamela opened it. It was Chris's parents and Damien. Chantal and Damien apologized to Pamela for the suffering caused by their son. You don't have to apologize. It's not your fault, Pamela said. Our fault is having such a son. I am sorry he made you endure all this, even when you called him your husband, Chantal regretted. You did nothing wrong to me. The culprits are my parents and me. We accepted this arranged marriage because we needed financial help, even though I didn't even know Chris. We regret it terribly today, Doris admitted, addressing Chris's parents. And we are grateful that your family did what we ourselves did not have the courage to do, she added. Pamela thanked Chantal and Damien for supporting her, even against their own son. She stepped towards Damien and hugged him to thank him. Without you, I might still be a prisoner of this marriage, believing there was no way out because of my family's debts to Chris. Thank you for supporting me and initiating this procedure despite the consequences for your brother, Pamela told him. I am relieved that you are finally free from this marriage. I hope you can be happy and live the life you dream of, Damien replied with a smile. Then the two families shared a meal. Pamela announced to her parents her intention to move to another state to start fresh and heal her wounds. Her family encouraged her and gave her their blessing. Pamela was finally able to do everything Chris had prevented her from achieving. She found a good job and finally savored her freedom and happiness. Thank you for reading this story. Remember at least 1 or 2 lessons from it. Flee any toxic relationship or marriage. Your happiness matters enormously, and no one, not even your parents, should decide your life in your place.